Man, you were... Oh, you should have kept your seatbelt on, because brace yourself for this one. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Sorry, I was looking for my glove. I'm panicking. Where are my gloves? This is the scariest thing about
than
this.
the movie, yeah. Oh, well, I mean, let's be honest. It's scary in a different way. The fact that this got greenlit. The fact that, like you said, Lisa Simpson wrote a horror film, pretty much. The fact that I finally saw a crazy Pureflix movie. It just happened to be for the left. And it's fucking Black Christmas.
You said this, like, when we were walking the theater, and I seriously went, like, thank you. Like, you were reading my mind during this movie. I go, like, I'm sitting through, like, God's Not Dead for the left, if Lisa Simpson wrote it, and of course it's a PG-13 slasher movie.
Even for a PG-13, this felt PG. I mean, like, the stuff they cut out, you can tell this was meant to be an R originally, and they cut it down, but, like... just the stuff they cut down, I mean, but that is just the least. Anyone that's like, Black Christmas, they're making it PG-13, that is the least.
This is insane!
Crazy movies.
This movie is awful. It is.
Even if you took Black Christmas out of it, like, you can't believe what you're hearing, you can't believe what you're seeing.
When it gets to the explanation of what's going on, it's parody. I mean, it's really not, it's presented serious, but this is a plot you put in a sketch, in a parody, if you're spoofing a slasher film.
Yeah.
That's the explanation that it gives in this movie. And I guess they had to kind of make it insane, because you know in the first 5 minutes, who is doing this?
Yeah, no, I mean, that is the thing, like, as soon as it, and first of all, we have to stop making jokes, wouldn't it be funny if this happens, because they keep happening with us.
Wouldn't it be great if the killer answered the door right now?
Yeah.
Oh!
But, yeah, and it is one of those things where you're right, just immediately you know who, I'll put that in quotes, who the killer is, but never for the life of anyone would you predict how or why.
It's a remake of Black Christmas, while also being a ripoff of Satan's School for Girls, kind of. Like
an invasion of the Body Snatchers with a little Spider-Man 3 thrown in. And
oh, yeah, it is.
I feel like we have to go into spoilers with this.
Yeah.
No way.
Like, to get into, like, how this doesn't work is because, like, okay, like, there are things in it that happened in the first one.
Yeah,
like the body,
not
much.
But
there is a tree. There's Christmas decorations.
Out of college.
Oh yeah, when they're being off-screen to death in this version. So, there's things like the body in the attic and going to the cop, and the cop's snarky and like doesn't believe her and things like that. But where is the first one? Also dealt with like political issues, especially for of that time, like, because
like heavy, uncomfortable stuff.
Yeah, for the first, people forget that the first one was made or released at least only a year after Roe v. Wade, and had a subplot in there dealing heavily with the abortion issue. They made it a point in that movie to make the characters and the situations feel very, very, very real. Like, you really felt for all those characters in it. They felt authentic in the original movie. And it was still great at being a horror film. Like, it was moody as shit for once. The characters were certainly likable and relatable. It was an intense film that also had some very serious topics in it.
I'd
but
argue
it worked.
I'd argue it maybe in my opinion, maybe the scariest slasher killer, honestly. The fact that you never see him and the sounds they makes and the calls and everything, and that you never really know the motive or anything like that. I mean, like, I'll be honest, I've seen bits of this movie, but I only saw the full thing maybe...
The original?
Maybe about 2 years ago, and I was blown away.
Oh yeah,
how good it was.
It still holds up.
Yeah,
I did an episode on it.
I'm not super huge into slasher films.
Oh, and I love them.
Yeah, I mean they have their place and they're fine and stuff, you know. And then some I like fine, but this one I'm like, this is really good.
Yeah, like you can see how it inspired a lot of stuff that came afterwards.
Yeah,
that movie, the way it handled its issues and everything. The difference between that and this, take what I said about the first movie. Now imagine it's just, if the original were just a 90-minute soapbox about abortion, and for 10 minutes it remembers, oh right, I'm supposed to be a movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's the difference between having a really well-researched, thought-out, provocative, multi-page essay and a tweet with typos that ends in a stupid hashtag. That's the difference between the two.
With like the Momo challenge at the end or something like that. Like to trick you into thinking this was supposed to be something horror related.
Oh, yeah, and like the comparisons to like a Pure Flix movie are accurate in this, because anytime characters are like arguing with each other in this, it's like you took all just a bunch of buzzwords, fit like the most superficial argument you could have on these topics, send it through a machine, and this is just this robotic straw man speech that we're given, like God's not dead.
Well, and the first thing that went through my head, because they start off, I mean, this is you know, it still takes place in a college, but they have these incredibly obnoxious characters. I mean, just imagine the SJWs from Fallen Kingdom just are the entire cast of this movie, and amp them up to like 20. I mean, it's like that bad. And they just, so, you know, they're signing petitions, they're doing it for the cause. At first I thought, oh, maybe it's just this one, and that's like her quirk. Because, hey, colleges, they can be a little extreme with super hardcore left and stuff. Whatever. I mean, I'm already like, I'm probably not going to like this, but whatever. And then I'm kind of thinking to myself, man, wouldn't it be interesting, like, if they really, because they're not talking about abortion in this, but they're definitely talking about, you know, kind of like rape and such. In college and college campuses and stuff like that. And I guess, for lack of a better word, like the culture around that, I guess, is trying to talk about. And all I'm thinking about is, man, if they really did this like what they did in the first Black Christmas and really, like, dealt with it, but dealt with it genuinely and very adult and very mature, even though it's like a slasher film, because, you know, I mean, horror films can deal with a lot of serious issues. I mean, and they can do it brilliantly. And this one just, over time, just gets more and more obvious and more crazy, to a point where I thought when it started off, I'm like, okay, well, they're doing this because you said buzzwords. And that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like, okay, well, they're just doing this to, like, hey, this is popular now, popular with the college kids. Let's get this. Hey, you know, we're woke, you know, kind of thing. But by the end, I'm like, no, just some nut wrote this.
I know, it's like it's constant. It is every piece of dialogue. It is every conversation. It is every scene in this movie.
Literally, every last line of this movie is a poster. In some person's college dorm. You know, a woke poster, pretty much.
Something like this. Sitting through this ultra if you were making a parody of an ultra woke ass slasher movie, this is what you'd get, but it's not a parody. So you're sitting there watching it going, I feel like it's like akin to watching like your grandma try to tell the Aristocrats joke. like, could you not, like, you PG-13 slasher movie, please? And because of that, you can't even sit there and say that, like, okay, this has a lot of problems in terms with it's as subtle as being hit in the face with a 15-inch dildo, so you can say all that, like that these characters don't work. There's no nuance to any of this, but because it's cut down to a PG-13, you can't even say like, well, at least the kills were good.
Yeah.
You can't, because I've seen a lot of slasher movies where I go like, yeah, it's got a lot of problems, but the kills were really, really fun.
Yeah, like the gore was creative or something like that, yeah.
This, nope. You just got this batshit explanation that it gives everything. I kept waiting for a real explanation to happen.
Me too. Yeah, like, oh, like it's all hallucination, or maybe this character actually, you know, died and this is their hell or purgatory. I don't even know. But you know, I guess I was saying to myself, nah, it's not smart enough for that.
It thinks it is.
Yeah, you know what this movie feels like? This feels like the writer and director, instead of thinking, how do I make this scary? How do I make this interesting? How do I make these characters likable? They're thinking about the documentary or the special that'll come out years later about the most inspiring horror films, and then their film is mentioned and it talks about how it challenged the social norms at the time and how it was daring and how everybody laughed at the script when they first read it, but they believed in it, you know, like they're thinking of that rather than, oh, how do I make these characters stand out? How do I make this, you know, a good horror film? How do I make the killer interesting and creepy and stuff, you know? Because that's what I get from the first Black Christmas. I think it wants to make a good horror film. Yeah. You know, like, it's still a good film and good horror film, you know, together.
It wants to be a great horror film, and it is the original. This is 90 minutes of they might as well be looking at the camera and explaining the point to you. And that
Which they basically do at the end.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like, every other line, not even every other line, literally every line. Like I said, they should just look at the camera and say the exact line to you. Like, it's, the only thing they're not doing is looking right at the camera. They're looking at whatever, the character, though. You know, I think sometimes they look at the camera, the more I think about it, the acting's not that great in this.
And there's some actors in here that I like.
Carrie Elways.
Carrie Elways is in this. Imogen Poots, who's the lead. I've seen her in things where she's fantastic. Did you see Green Room?
That's the Patrick Stewart one, right?
Yeah.
I've seen bits of it.
Boy, did I make that mistake sometimes in the Green Book review.
That's very different movies. I know it's a much better horror film than this.
Lord, yeah. She's in 28 Weeks Later. I've seen her in plenty of things where she's great. And this, I mean, you can tell she's really trying in this. Like, she is. And I've seen a lot of other movies with her, too, where I'm like, man, she deserves better than this. So this is in the league of her movies, along with, like, That Awkward Moment and, Need for Speed. I think she was in the Aaron Paul one. So yeah, there's some actors in this that I do like that are way above this. Maybe they read this and thought this shit was a satire. It would read like a satire.
That's kind of, I mean, at least with Carrie Elways. I mean, I know he's not gonna be like, you know, name above the title or anything, but I'm just like, he must have been a fucking good paycheck. That's all I can imagine. Because I mean, it's just, well, even the writing, it's like, how does anyone make this sound natural? How does I mean, I guess we should. I mean, should we just
say how this movie ends?
I guess if you didn't catch on yet, we're gonna go into spoilers. But it's like there's no way to talk about without doing that.
So you know right away that it's the frat house who's behind this.
So clearly.
Also, because the trailer shows it.
Oh, do they?
It does. The trailer shows the frat house is behind this, and that Carrie Elwes is. So I'm like, they knew they were releasing crap.
The movie kind of already does anyway, like maybe 15 minutes in.
Oh, yeah,
you're looking, and the killer wears a hood and a mask. Even that's too much for Black Christmas, but and the girl looks in and sees them like putting these little symbols, and they're all wearing the hoods, and they're you know, all that stuff. So it's like, well, there they are. They just didn't put the mask on yet, but that's clearly them. And then when they kill one of them, and then another one pops up, they're like, "What the hell?" Like,
Gee, I wonder. Like, I like that every cliche and stereotype of a frat house is simultaneously happening during this event.
Yeah.
Drunk guys being assholes, an initiation that's very Skulls and Cult-like, and a rape.
Yeah.
Like, all like going on in the same hallway.
I don't know. I think she's lying. If there's anything I've gotten from this movie is that she's just making shit up. What, that's not what they were saying?
What? No one puts black ink on their heads. Like, so they're behind this. So when that happens, I'm like, oh, well, of course. But then it gets supernatural.
Yeah.
You know, like Black Christmas. What?
And it's one of those things, too, where it's like, I think the only hint they have is like one of the boys was like, you know, oh, I have a migraine, I gotta go. And then later he comes in, it's just and you hear a little ee like that. I'm like, well, that's specific. And my favorite thing is that, you know, dumbest boy ever, he comes in, and there's the girl with the, you know, the little sharp thing, whatever, ready to attack the killer, wherever he is. And he goes, hey, what's going on? She's like, shh, there's someone in the house. He's like, what, there's someone in the house? Oh, I'm not gonna have that at all. And he goes and he grabs me and hey, come on, you killer, come out. Dead. Like, well, what did you fucking think was gonna happen, you goddamn moron?
The killer's coming from inside the house. Yeah, really?
Christ, I just realized that was probably a satire of, like, chauvinistic assholes trying to...
Oh, it was. It was because he literally says that. He goes, because nothing in this movie has any trace of subtlety whatsoever. So, yeah, but right before he gets killed, he says something like, well, I'm the man of the house. I'm going to grab and protect all you ladies. Foomp. Again, this is comedy dialogue. So, the explanation is supernatural. Because...
Explained on a car ride, by the way.
Oh, yeah, right. They dropped that bit of exposition in there. Like, so they had petitioned to get the statue of, like, the university's founder taken down because... would guess he was racist or something.
I think they said like he owned slaves too or something like that. I think that was one of them.
So they take the statue, this bust of the school's founder down, and then the frat house.
I mean, yeah.
How do you start with this without, or just continue laughing? Because the frat house kept it in their frat.
No, they were gonna throw it out, but then they discovered there was magic in it, like Frosty the Snowman.
Oh
Carrie
my God.
always actually says we discovered there was magic in it.
And the magic is this black oil that comes in it that possesses them like they're the rapey Stepford wives now. Like, where... So, because the founder knew that a couple hundred years in the future, women would start to have too much of a voice, and in case that ever happens, I've included this black magic ink in the bust of my statue to possess our brothers to become the alphas that they need to be. They literally say this in the movie.
Yeah, like pretty much word for word. Yeah, and each one of them is the founder. He controls every one of them, apparently.
So he's possessed they're all under possession, all the guys in this frat house, to become these, like, possessed Aryan Brotherhood, but to keep the whole alpha male thing strong in this university, to kill off these bitches.
Yeah, women have a role, it's just behind the men. And even when they're like, it's like, you know, you're all possessed, you're all monsters. It's like, no, we're not monsters, we're just men. And it's like, this is like the most sexy shit I've ever heard. It's like... I mean, I'm trying to think if there's like one, I don't know, I'm not one of those guys that get into, there's not one positive male role model. I don't care, it's as it's interesting or funny or whatever. I mean, this is like one of the few movies where I'm just like, is there one? I mean, is there even one dude?
There is. who ironically looks and dresses like Bill Cosby.
Oh, that's right.
The love
did he
interest.
turn
There's
evil?
a.
Oh no,
well,
no, no,
he did, but he
fights back.
But
at
yeah,
the
yeah.
end, that's right. Really, it's me. I'm back. Yeah, it's very Temple of Doom. Even Temple of Doom was scarier than this.
Oh hell yeah!
So
Damn right it is.
So yeah, so the whole. This thing is dripping black goo from the eyes, and they're all putting the thing on the head, and their eyes glow, and they all have the same thought, we must destroy, you know, the women, we must destroy them, and looks like they're gonna, and then, like, it's like, how do you want to die? Your body, your choice. Real fucking line in the movie.
Do you know what I think they were trying to do? Like, make, like, do a horror film that to sex and issues related to sexism, what Get Out was doing with race. Only an idiot wrote this movie.
Could be. Yeah, and they forgot the humor. Again, intentional humor. Yeah, and then, like, you know, all the frat sisters, most of them off screen, the more I think about it. It opens up with this, you know, girl getting murdered, you know, at this different frat house, and I remember we're just like, or this different college house, and we're just like, you know, what happened to that one house, that girl, whatever, like, and then like, and then literally like the last, I don't know, 20 minutes they come back in, and it's only as like, you know, pretty much the cavalry, and they have, you know, they line up like, you know, again, because we just saw Charlie's Angels, pretty much.
They do! Yeah!
And they have this big fight against these people, you know, these killers that not only have, like, axes and knives and swords, but also, like, bows and arrows. Like, that's supposed to be a really creepy kill. You know, there's literally a whole scene where one of the killers is hunting him with just a bow and arrow, and it looks fucking ridiculous.
They say, like, you messed with the wrong sisters.
Yeah.
Ooh, poster line.
Yeah. And there's one, like, she's about to destroy the bust, and the guy's like, no, don't you know, women have their place, it's just behind the men, and if you destroy that, you know, if you break that, you'll break all of us, and what she say? We can't be broken.
This makes me want to apologize to Sorority Row from 10 years ago, and even the 2006 Black Christmas. Like,
and that's the thing, I have to keep reminding myself this has the name Black Christmas.
Yeah.
I mean, just...
Oh, when it ended with a Christmas song, I leaned over to you going, oh right, this did take place during Christmas. Die Hard's way more of a Christmas movie than this.
Yes, definitely. I think they actually say the word Christmas more times than... I don't think they say the word Christmas once in this.
They do in one scene where the girl goes, and again, it was to make a statement about the term Happy Holidays.
Oh, that's right.
When the girl goes, Happy Holidays, and she's like, Merry Christmas from your Jewish friend, or something. At least a movie, at least a Pure Flix film, a movie like God's Not Dead, a movie like Christmas with a capital C or something like that, advertise themselves as such.
This looks
like you walk into those knowing what they are.
This looks like just another run-of-the-mill, crappy, you know, horror film, reboot, remake, whatever. You know, it seems like it starts off that way, you know, with just a little like, oh, okay, and they're trying the commentary thing too. Okay, half a point, I guess. I don't know.
Right.
Then it quickly goes into the negative points.
Yeah, because I'm not saying, like neither of us are sitting here saying that, like, oh, it's got, like, this political message to it, that means it's bad. No, not at all. Plenty of great horror movies do that. Like we said, the original did that. That's not, this is one of those movies where you could tell that is first and foremost the only thing they had on their mind.
Well, and because I was thinking, I forget if I said this or not, but I was thinking to myself, man, wouldn't it be fascinating if there really was, like, you know, a horror film, if it's Black Christmas or something else, that really, I mean, because rape in college and stuff like that, I mean, that's a scary fucking thing.
Yeah,
You know, and you could really make a good horror film out of it. I'm sure other people probably have, you know, and then probably, you know, hopefully did it more adult than this, you know, and really treat it with the seriousness that it deserves. But yeah, if you're like, no, we're going to talk about rape culture in this, but, on college campuses, but it's gonna be black goo, and then all these, people shooting arrows and this big fight like the Hunger Games at the end and stuff like that. I just feel like, I don't think it's gonna work.
What you're describing looks like going by the trailer that we got in front of this, looks like what the Invisible Man will do a much better job at. Yeah, that looks really good.
What a fucking brilliant, we've already done most things you can do with effects and the Invisible Man, so what else can you do? You just switch the perspective, and it's just like, ooh, like that's, when I saw that trailer, I'm like, I mean, it could suck, I don't know, but this looks fucking brilliant.
It does. Yeah, it looks like a really good Invisible Man movie and a better version of Hollow Man.
Yeah.
I couldn't stand this movie. I thought it was exhausting. I'm like, I'm tired after this movie is over. Not really, in a different way than I was tired after Charlie's Angels.
No, I will say this. The last third of this at least, I will definitely remember. I couldn't forget the last third of this if my life depended on it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just impossible. Where Charlie's Angels, I'm like still fighting to remember a scene.
Oh, dude, yeah.
But with this, I mean, again, it's like, I'll give credit. I'm always going to remember how fucking crazy this is. But no, it is quite horrendous.
In a couple, I will eventually, because when they put this on DVD, they'll put out an R-rated version, and I will end up seeing that because I did an episode on the first movie, so
you gotta do.
Yeah,
you gotta do one.
Boy, is this amount of material!
Oh God, you just. What's so great about it is that it can start off like somebody. I'm sure if you watch your review and just being like, "Oh come on, he's reading too deep into it. Oh come on, they're not being that obvious." And then just as it keeps going and going, you can't deny it anymore.
It works out in several different ways because several years ago I also did an episode of Satan's School for Girls.
Oh, there you go.
Oh man. So would you recommend not seeing it in theaters, but on video to have a laugh? Is it that kind of movie, you think?
It's really only the last third.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's not really, I mean, I guess it kind of depends because I don't know if you're like me, I mean, sometimes you can get a good laugh out of the political leaning going just so far, so crazy, like the Pure Flix films and stuff like that. But some are really gonna make you laugh, and others are just gonna be like, shut up. And these characters are so annoying. And so, I mean, you nailed it. Yeah. Lisa Simpson. It's so Lisa Simpson. And that just drives me nuts. So, I mean, for me, I'd be like, nah, man, I don't know if I could sit through it again. But, I mean, I do know there's people that, just get a good laugh at, something just being so woke and so obvious and so painful.
That you get a good laugh out of this.
Yeah. It'll start off like you're almost like you're reading more into it to start off, because I don't want to say it's subtle, but in the beginning, but it's less obvious. And then at the end, it's just constantly punching you in the face with it.
Dude, and it is so weird that the last movie I saw before this was No Safe Spaces.
That's honestly what I was thinking. Man, the people in this, I haven't seen this movie, but I heard you talk about it. It's whether it's good or bad, I just want them to go see it.
Yeah, I know. It's
this movie's problematic.
What? I didn't realize it'd be such an appropriate double feature.
Yeah.
No Safe Spaces and Black Christmas? What? Well, I gotta... Man, nothing I see this week is gonna top this experience. I'm glad you're here to see this with me, because that way I know it's not the painkillers I'm talking.
There was a lot of, particularly in that last third, I had to keep, you see it too, right?
So you're seeing this, right? It's not just me. This is this insanity that's happening in front of me.
Oh, man.
My God. Well, what do I have this week? Oh, Richard Jewell and Jumanji. I think I'm seeing both of those tomorrow. So anyway, that was fun.
Interesting experience.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. See you guys.
Bye.